In a world that celebrates constant movement, loud gatherings, and the relentless hustle of being out there, preferring the sanctuary of your own home is often misunderstood. You might have heard the whispers, or perhaps even the direct accusations. People call it antisocial. They label it as withdrawal, or even hint that it stems from anxiety or sadness. But what if they are looking at it entirely backward? What if your desire to retreat behind your door isn't a sign of weakness, but a manifestation of a profound psychological architecture? When we look at this behavior through the lens of Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, the narrative shifts completely. Jung didn't view the preference for solitude as a defect to be fixed. He saw it as a fundamental orientation of the human soul. If you find deep satisfaction in staying home, you aren't hiding from the world. You are engaging in a necessary act of psychological regulation that the majority of society fails to comprehend. To understand why you love being at home, we first have to understand the currency of your mind, your energy. Jung introduced the concepts of introversion and extroversion, but not in the shallow way pop culture uses them today. It isn't about being shy versus being the life of the party. It is about the flow of libido psychic energy. For the extrovert, energy flows outward toward the object. They need the external world to anchor their reality. But for you, if you identify with this love for the home, energy flows inward toward the subject. Your battery doesn't charge by expending energy on others. It charges by retreating into the internal landscape. When you step outside, into the chaos of social obligations, traffic, and small talk, you are essentially spending a currency that is expensive for you to earn. Jung observed that for the introverted type, the object, the outside world, can feel draining, sometimes even overwhelming. The environment demands a response from you. It demands a reaction. Every conversation, every noise, every shifting visual requires you to adapt. For someone who thrives on internal processing, this constant demand for adaptation triggers a depletion of resources. So, when you close the door to your home, you aren't running away. You are stopping the hemorrhage of your psychic energy. You are entering a controlled environment where the demand to react ceases, and the freedom to be begins. This brings us to a crucial Jungian concept, the persona. In our daily lives, we all wear a mask. Jung called this the persona. It is the face we present to the world, the polite employee, the attentive listener, the smiling neighbor. The persona is necessary. It protects our inner self from the harshness of the collective society. However, wearing a heavy mask for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day is exhausting. It requires constant muscular tension of the psyche. For those who love being at home, the home represents the only space where the persona can be completely discarded. Think about the feeling of walking into your house and locking the door. There is a physical sensation of release, isn't there? That is the weight of the persona dropping to the floor, inside your sanctuary. You do not need to perform. You do not need to smile if you are not happy. You do not need to speak if you have nothing to say. This relates directly to what we might call emotional self-sufficiency. In the outside world, your emotions are often dictated by the environment. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A boss criticizes you. A friend brings drama. Your internal state is constantly being hijacked by external variables. But in the safety of your home, you regain sovereignty over your emotional state. Jung believed that the goal of human development is individuation, the process of becoming your true self, inseparable and distinct from the collective psychology. It is very difficult to individuate when you are constantly bombarded by the collective noise. By loving your home, you are instinctively creating the necessary conditions for this growth. You are curating an environment where your thoughts can actually be heard. There is a misconception that people who stay home are doing nothing, but Jung would argue that you are likely doing the most important work of all. You are processing. The introverted mind is like a deep-sea diver. It dives into the depths of ideas, memories, and feelings. This requires a calm surface. If the water is choppy, meaning, if the environment is chaotic, you cannot dive. Your home provides the still water. Consider the aspect of control. In psychology, there is a strong link between the preference for familiar environments and the need to reduce cognitive load. The outside world is unpredictable. It is full of what we call pattern interrupts. Loud noises, flashing lights, sudden interruptions. For a mind that prefers depth over breadth, these interruptions are not just annoying, they are destructive to the thought process. By controlling your environment, lighting a candle, choosing the music, sitting in a specific chair, you are lowering the cortisol levels in your brain. You are creating a predictable safety zone. This isn't about being a control freak. It is about creating a vessel where your mind can function at its highest capacity. Jung famously built his own retreat, a tower in Bollingen, where he spent months alone. He didn't do this because he hated people. He did it because he knew that his best work, his deepest connection to the unconscious, required a fortress of silence. Your apartment or your house is your Bollingen Tower. It is the physical manifestation of your boundary against a world that tries to consume you. And this brings us to a fascinating point about the difference between loneliness and solitude, a distinction that is vital to understanding your own nature. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the glory of being alone. Jung suggested that those who are terrified of being alone are often terrified of their own shadow, the parts of themselves they haven't accepted. They need noise and company to drown out the internal voice. But if you love being at home, if you cherish that silence, it suggests you have a relationship with yourself that many people lack. You are not afraid of your own company. You are not afraid of the silence because the silence isn't empty for you. It is full. It is full of your ideas, your daydreams, your reflection. This capacity to sit with oneself is a marker of psychological maturity. While others are frantically searching for the next dopamine hit from a smartphone notification or a crowded bar, you are finding dopamine in stability, in comfort, in the richness of your own inner life. We often forget that for most of human history, life was not this loud. The constant digital and physical stimulation of the modern era is unnatural. Your desire to withdraw is, in many ways, a healthy biological response to an unhealthy society. It is a protective mechanism. You are preserving the integrity of your soul against a culture that wants to commodify your attention. Before we dive deeper into the specific traits that define this personality type and how it connects to high intelligence and empathy, I'd like to invite you to join our community if this resonates with you. A simple click to subscribe ensures you don't miss out on exploring the depths of your own mind with us. It's a small action, but it keeps us connected. Now, let's look at the specific psychological trait that Jung identified as the subjective factor. This is crucial because it explains why you see the world differently than your extroverted friends, and why your home is not just a place, but a lens through which you view reality. Jung called it the subjective factor. It sounds technical, but it is the key to your entire existence. In a world obsessed with objective reality, facts, figures, breaking news, viral trends, the extroverted world focuses entirely on the object itself. But for you, the object is secondary. The primary reality is how that object resonates within you. When you see a sunset, you don't just see light hitting the horizon. You feel a specific melancholia, a memory, a connection to something ancient. You are not just recording the world like a camera, you are painting it like an artist. This internal processing requires time. It requires space. And most importantly, it requires the absence of immediate judgment. The outside world does not have time for your subjective factor. It demands quick reactions. It demands that you agree with the consensus. But in your home, You are the master of meaning. You can take a thought, turn it over in your hands, and examine it from every angle without being rushed. This is why you love being at home. It is the laboratory where you convert raw experience into wisdom. This brings us to a second major misunderstanding, the idea that staying home is an act of avoidance. Critics say you are avoiding life. Jung would suggest you are actually feeling life too intensely. Many people who prefer the sanctuary of home fall into what modern psychology aligns with the highly sensitive person, or HSP. Jung observed this long before the term existed. He noted that the introverted type often possesses a compensatory relationship with the unconscious that makes them more sensitive to stimuli. Think of the human nervous system like a radio receiver. For some, the dial is set to low sensitivity. They can walk through a crowded shopping mall, hear the screaming children, smell the perfumes, see the flashing advertisements, and feel nothing much. They are fine. But your receiver, it is tuned to the highest frequency. You don't just hear the noise, you feel the chaotic vibration of it in your body. You pick up on the micro expressions of the cashier who is having a bad day. You notice the flickering light that no one else sees. This high-resolution perception is a gift, but it is an expensive one. It costs energy. If you were to stay out there for too long without retreating, your system would burn out. This is what society calls social anxiety, or AGNT. But often, it is simply sensory overload. Your home acts as a Faraday cage. It blocks out the static. By controlling the sensory input, soft textures, dim lighting, silence, you are not hiding. You are lowering the volume of the world so you can actually hear your own thoughts. You are protecting your instrument. Because make no mistake, your mind is a precision instrument, and precision instruments are not meant to be left out in the rain. But there is a darker side to this that we must address. Something Jung warned about. The danger of the ivory tower. While solitude is necessary for your charging, isolation is different. Jung warned that if the introvert cuts off all connection to the outer world, their inner world can become a house of mirrors. Realities can become distorted. This is why your preference for home is usually nuanced. You don't hate people. In fact, you probably crave connection more deeply than the average person, but you crave a specific kind of connection. This brings us to the concept of depth over breadth. The extroverted world operates on breadth. How many friends do you have? How many likes? How many parties did you attend? It is a game of numbers. The introverted home lover operates on depth. You would rather sit on your couch with one person and talk about the nature of the universe, childhood trauma, or the meaning of dreams for 4 hours, than spend 4 hours at a cocktail party making small talk with 50 people. To you, small talk is not just boring, it is painful. It feels like a performance. It feels inauthentic. And if there is one thing the Jungian introvert cannot stand, it is inauthenticity. When you are at home, usually with a partner, a pet, or a very close friend, the pretense drops. This is where real intimacy happens. So, when people say you are antisocial for staying home, they are wrong. You are arguably selectively social. You are guarding your energy for the interactions that actually matter. You are preserving your capacity to be a good friend, a good partner, or a good listener by not wasting your limited social battery on people who don't care about you. Let's shift to the creative womb. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come to you when you are alone in your room, perhaps in the shower, or washing dishes, or simply staring at the ceiling? Jung believed that the creative impulse comes from the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of human experience that we all share. But to access it, the ego, the conscious mind, must step aside. It is very hard for the ego to step aside when you are navigating traffic or trying to look busy at an office. The ego is on high alert in public, but at home, in safety, the ego relaxes. And when the ego relaxes, the door to the unconscious cracks open. This is why so many writers, artists, and thinkers are homebodies. They are not lazy. They are waiting. They are waiting for the muse that only speaks in whispers. If you love being at home, you are likely a creator in some capacity. You might not paint or write, but you create systems. You create plans. You create fantasies. Your inner world is rich with narratives. To the outside observer, looking through your window, it looks like you are just sitting there drinking tea. But inside your mind, entire civilizations are rising and falling. You are solving problems. You are simulating futures. This ability to simulate the future is a superpower. Jung talked about intuition as a primary function for many introverts. Intuition is the ability to see around corners, to know things without knowing how you know them. This processing happens in the background. It happens when you are safe. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the architecture of your mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you feel that your creativity is linked to your solitude? Sharing your experience helps others realize they aren't alone in this feeling. Now, we must consider the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow consists of the parts of ourselves we deny or hide. For the extrovert, the shadow often contains their need for stillness. They project this by calling homebodies boring. But for you, the home lover, your shadow might contain your desire for power, for attention, or for chaos. Sometimes, you stay home not just to recharge, but because the world challenges your sense of control. The home is predictable, the world is not. Jung would ask you, are you staying home to find yourself, or to hide from the parts of yourself that only emerge in conflict? This is the critical distinction between a healthy sanctuary and an unhealthy prison. A healthy home bases you. It prepares you to go out and give your gift to the world. An unhealthy home traps you, keeping you in a state of suspended animation where you never have to face the friction that leads to growth. However, for the vast majority of you listening to this, your preference is the healthy one. You have intuitively realized that the modern world is designed for a type of human that you are not, and instead of forcing yourself to fit into a mold that breaks you, you have built an environment that sustains you. You have embraced what Jung called individuation, the path to becoming whole. By removing yourself from the herd, even just for the weekend, you stop thinking what they think and start thinking what you think. You stop feeling what they expect you to feel and start feeling your own true emotions. This solitude is the furnace of transformation. But there is one final, profound realization that connects your love for home to the very structure of the universe. Something Jung touched upon in his later years regarding the unus mundus, or one world. It suggests that your inner world and the outer world are not as separate as you think. Jung spoke of the unus mundus, the idea that the physical world and the psychological world are essentially two sides of the same coin. This explains why your environment is not just a backdrop for your life, but a physical manifestation of your mind. When you curate your home, when you organize your bookshelf, or when you tend to your plants in silence, you are not just doing chores. You are performing an act of psychological ordering. You are arranging your psyche. In alchemy, which Jung studied extensively to understand the unconscious, there is the concept of the temenos. The temenos is a sacred, protected circle where the transformation takes place. It is a space where the rules of the ordinary world do not apply, allowing the alchemist to work on the great work. For the modern introvert, your home is your temenos. It is the sacred circle where you strip away the debris of the collective consciousness to find the gold of your true self. This perspective shifts the entire narrative from hiding to cultivating. You aren't hiding from the world, you are cultivating a center of gravity. In a society that is spinning off its axis, becoming increasingly polarized, frantic, and superficial, having a strong center of gravity is an act of rebellion. It is an act of sanity. Consider the archetype of the hermit. In the tarot and in Jungian analysis, the hermit is not a sad figure. He stands alone on a mountaintop, holding a lantern. He has retreated from the village not because he hates the villagers, but because the answers he seeks cannot be found in the noise of the marketplace. He goes inward to find the light. And this is the crucial part that most people miss. He eventually returns to share that light. Your time at home is your time on the mountain. The insights you gain, the peace you cultivate, the kindness you develop toward yourself, these are the gifts you eventually bring back to your interactions with others. You become a stabilizing force. Have you noticed that when your friends are in crisis, they often come to you? They come to you because you have what they lack: stillness. You have sat with yourself long enough to not be terrified of their pain. You offer them a piece of the sanctuary you have built. So, the next time someone asks you, "Why don't you go out more?" or implies that you are missing out on life, remember the concept of JOMO, the joy of missing out. It is the sophisticated cousin of FOMO. It is the realization that by missing out on the fleeting, loud, and often empty distractions of the crowd, you are gaining entry into a deeper, more resonant experience of existence. You are not missing out on life. You are opting out of the noise to tune into the signal. You are prioritizing your alignment over your approval. You are choosing the richness of the inner world over the validation of the outer one. And according to Jung, this is the path to wisdom. The first half of life is often about building the ego and establishing a place in the world, the job, the status, the network. But the second half of life, the more meaningful half, is about the turn inward. It is about returning home, both metaphorically and literally. If you have felt misunderstood, or if you have ever judged yourself for this need to retreat, let this be your permission slip to stop. Embrace your nature. Your love for home is not a symptom of a disorder. It is a sign of a soul that requires depth to breathe. It is a sign that you are playing a different game, one where the score isn't kept by how many people you know, but by how well you know yourself. Your home is your charger, your library, your sanctuary, and your temenos. Protect it, honor it, and never apologize for needing it. If this analysis has helped you see your own nature in a new light, or if you felt like we were describing your own living room and your own mind, there is much more we can explore together. We dive deep into the psychology of the self every week, uncovering the hidden drivers behind why we do what we do. By subscribing and turning on notifications, you ensure that you don't miss the next chapter of this journey inward. And do me a favor, leave a comment below sharing your favorite thing to do when you are finally alone at home. Is it reading? Is it silence? Or is it simply the joy of being unobserved? I read every story, and I'd love to read yours. Thank you for spending this time in our quiet corner of the internet. Until next time, take care of your mind and enjoy your sanctuary.